Hello, I'm so glad you're joining us today. We are on day 10 of our study, and we're going to be looking in the Old Testament. We're going to look at Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. And this is Joseph speaking, and he says, "You intended to harm me, but God has intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." And if you're not that familiar with Joseph, his story is pretty amazing. You can actually find it in the book of Genesis, right around chapter 36, 37. And Joseph, so he was one of Jacob's 12 sons. And his father loved him more than any of the others and gave him a colored cloak. And if you were in children's ministry or kids' church anytime growing up, you might remember the coat of many colors. And this is where the story comes from. And so his brothers were jealous of him because his father obviously had shown him favor. And so at first, what they wanted to do is they wanted to kill him. But then they were like, no, that's probably not a great idea. So they're like, hey, let's sell him into slavery. So that's what they did is they sold him into slavery for 20 pieces of silver, which is not a lot of money. I don't really think there's any amount of money that would be justified for making that a good choice. And he went through this process and he was taken to Egypt and eventually became one of Pharaoh's officials, and he spent time in prison. I mean, there was a whole ordeal. It's a fascinating story to read, and I would encourage you to do so as well. So here he is after his brother sold him into slavery. He's in front of his brothers sometime later and says, hey, like you intended to harm me, but God, he has intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. And, what I love here is, Joseph's brothers were probably coming to him. They were looking for food. There was a famine in the land. And lo and behold, the brother that they sold some years ago, here he is. He is the one who is distributing the food and, distributing the resources. And, I probably would have been like, if I was one of his brothers, I probably would have been like, oh, great. Like, ah, man, like feelings of waves of guilt and just what did we do and just the shame and like all that stuff. But what Joseph did is, when they went to him, Joseph didn't hold a grudge. He didn't pay them back for what they had done to him years ago. He responds in forgiveness. He had a forgiving heart, and it probably took some time for him to get to that place, but he did, and he says, hey, what the enemy meant to do to destroy and to kill me and to ruin me, God is using that situation to save many lives. And I think that's one of the great takeaways from this passage is, we all have, walked through life and have maybe had people say some not so nice things or do some not so nice things to us over the course of, whatever time frame. And, if we're honest with ourselves, sometimes we can look back and we're like, hey, so and so said this to me 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 30 years ago, whatever it is. And you can still feel that grudge within you. And that's one of the things Joseph did was he processed it. I'm sure he had to release it to the Lord probably many times of like, hey, like, what the heck? Like I was just sold into slavery and yeah, I mean, just thinking about everything that he went through, I would probably have some bitterness and grudges in my own heart if that were me. But what he did here was, he took all that and let the Lord, heal him and heal his heart, and he forgave them. And there's a quote by Lewis Smedes that I absolutely love. It's actually one of my favorite quotes. I probably said it uh, many, many times. You probably heard me say it. But it's Lewis B. Smedes, and it says, to forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that that prisoner was you. And that is beautiful. I think that's one of the things that sometimes we often forget, but I think it's so important, when things go on in our lives, when things happen to us, we have the power to forgive. It often takes time. It is often hard work and a lot of work. And sometimes, the person who had done things to us, may never apologize, and I mean, I can speak from experience from that, when some things have happened to me back in, when I was very young, and, I held on to it for a long time. It was very destructive. It was very, very heavy, very heavy. Like I could feel the weight of it, the weight of the depression that would come on, the anxiety, all that stuff. And many years ago, probably close to 20 years ago now, the Lord told me that he wanted me to pray for this person that did some harm to me. And I'm like, no way. And he was like, I want you to pray for them. Nope, all set, all done. I'm not doing that. He said, I want you to pray for them. And then out of that, it was baby steps for me. It took a while for me to get there, but I started to pray for them. And then over time, the forgiveness and just releasing all that, the weight that I was holding on to for, probably 15, 20 years, well, 20 years by that time. And, to be able to forgive them, even though they never once apologized, even though they never once admitted what had taken place, but to be able to forgive them despite all that, I'm the one that's free. I can truly say I can be in the same room with that person and have a conversation with them, and there's nothing in my heart that is ill towards them. There's no grudges or anything like that. It's like I know I can be like Joseph and I can say like Joseph, what was intended to harm me and to kill me and to destroy me, God is using it now for his good. And I would just encourage you, that's obviously it takes some time to get through that. Sometimes the healing process is instant, and I love when that happens, and sometimes it's a process and it takes a while. But I would encourage you, if there's anything in your heart that, maybe is eating at you, or maybe there's a grudge or anything like that, we don't have to stay in that place. We can choose forgiveness and choose to release that person or the situation or whatever it is. We can release it to God and truly be free. And I love that, absolutely love that. God will remold us. He will fix any broken areas. He will restore any of that, and he will use it for his glory. We don't have to stay in that same place of, oh, this happened to me, or oh, that happened to me, and like take it on as our identity. We have the choice to be able to forgive and release that to the Lord. And I would definitely encourage you to do that. In the Lord's timing, allow the Holy Spirit to help you, in that process. And obviously, if you need help with that, you can reach out to us or a trusted counselor or a trusted friend that can maybe help you walk you through that process. But I would encourage you to do so. The taste of freedom, of not being weighed down by those things, is truly remarkable and truly something that only the Lord can do, and only something that the Lord can bring. And I love that. So I hope this encourages you, and I just pray that, the Lord would just bless you in every area of your life, and even with the things that have happened in the past, just that, you would trust the Lord in the process, and, allow his grace to help you in the midst of that, where, you can release these things. And sometimes that's a continual thing. Sometimes there have been things that have happened, months ago or, recently, that it's like, all right, it's like sometimes I can literally feel like the weight on my shoulders from it. And it's like, all right, I know I need to release that because the Lord doesn't want me to carry that. It's going to weigh me down. It's not good for me. It's not healthy for me. It distracts me, all that. And, the Lord's just saying, allow me to, into those places, into those secret places that we have. And just allow me to just restore that, and to release it to me and all that. And I mean, he's so trustworthy, he wants it. He's so gentle, when we go through the process. Yes, it can be painful at times, but he's so gentle through it all. And it's worth it. It's worth it in the end to be free and not be holding on to these things. So I would encourage you, just allow the Lord to work his wonders, work what it is that he wants to in his timing. Don't rush it. He knows the complete timing of that. But I pray this encouraged you. I just pray a blessing upon you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.